If someone was to hear the term legitimate suffering, it might not make any sense to them. But if they were to hear the word neurosis, they might have a rough idea about what it means. This could be seen as a normal part of living in a society that encourages the avoidance of pain and living on the surface of oneself. There are numerous ways for someone to avoid their pain in the modern day world, and one outcome of this is that they can end up losing touch with their true essence. What this comes down to is that when someone avoids how they feel, they will be pushing their painful feelings out of their conscious awareness. These feelings won't have disappeared, they will just be in another part of their being, their body. The good thing is that this will allow them to keep a lot of their emotional pain at bay. The bad thing is that this will cause them to lose touch with their true self. The reason for this is that this part of them will be found in their body. In addition to losing touch with their true self, it can also be normal for them to feel flat and numb. This is because it is not possible to just remove one side of the emotional spectrum. If one side is removed, so is the other. To change this and to feel alive, one can be drawn to things that will allow them to simply feel human again. Further, the weaker their connection is to themselves, the more instruction they are likely to need from the people around them and society. If they struggle with anxiety, fear, anger, sadness, and are often irritable, for instance, it could be said that it is not going to be much of a surprise. Through being out of touch with themselves, they won't know why this is, but their unconscious mind/body will be talking to them. They will be carrying a lot of baggage, and this baggage will continually seep into their conscious mind. For their life to change, it will be a good idea for them to explore what is taking place at a deeper level, with the assistance of a therapist or healer, for instance. They are probably carrying trauma that they haven't resolved, and they may have experienced losses that they haven't grieved. Instead of taking this route, they could end up taking something or just playing around with what is taking place in their mind. They will live in a society that is primarily about doing, not being, and the therapeutic approach of that society is typically going to be no different. A time when being present and just being, so that what is taking place at a deeper level can be explored and acknowledged, will be a time when it will be about changing and fixing things. If they were to step away from mainstream society and look for a solution elsewhere, they may soon come into contact with people that have a very different approach. During this time, they may be encouraged to engage in legitimate suffering. This may involve grieving the loss of a loved one or crying out unmet childhood needs. Unlike illegitimate suffering, this won't go on forever, and the suffering that they do go through will have a positive effect on their mental and emotional health. From this quote alone, it is clear to see that Carl Jung knew how important legitimate suffering is when it comes to mental and emotional health. Yet, as this type of suffering has not been accepted, even after all these years, as a normal part of life by society, it is to be expected that so many people would be neurotic. If a society was any other way, that would be abnormal. A society that doesn't encourage self-awareness and self-knowledge is not going to be able to function in a peaceful and harmonious way. So maybe this is a term that you've heard before, maybe it isn't, but what it comes down to is that working through losses and unmet childhood needs is a key part of having good mental and emotional health. And when these losses and pains are not dealt with, then it will be normal for someone to have all kinds of mental and emotional problems. As I've said, for them to be shut down and to then be reliant on external guidance, because of course it is our feelings that notify us and allow us to know what is right for us, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. If someone is walking over us, if we want to do something or not, our feelings are there to let us know, is this right for me? So if someone is then out of touch with their body and their feelings and needs, then it is going to be perfectly normal for them to not only have mental and emotional problems, but also for them to be oblivious when it comes to how to live their life in each moment and what to do in general to live a fulfilling life. But of course, it can be so normal for someone to be dependent on external guidance and to be out of touch with themselves. So even if they are completely alienated from themselves and are not living in alignment with their true self, they might not know it. So they can then receive lots of approval and believe that they are doing the right thing because of the feedback that they receive. But deep down, they can feel very empty and not really feel as though they are on the right path. So through being in a disconnected state, not only does someone lose their ability to feel all feelings, both the so-called good and bad ones, they also lose the ability to know what is right for them. So if you can relate to this and you can see that you may be carrying a lot of pain, and because you have not engaged in legitimate suffering, you have been engaging in illegitimate suffering. So you have been suffering and this has been going on and on and on. And so it will then be time for you to engage in legitimate suffering, so you can start to move through your pain and to become a more integrated human being, so you can live a far more fulfilling life and to know what is right for you and what isn't. So if you can relate to this, you may need to reach out for external support so that you can gradually change your life. If you would like to find out more about the services that I offer, please go to www.oliverjrcooper.co.uk or email me at info@oliverjrcooper.co.uk, and I'm looking forward to assisting you on your journey.